It's your part.
Thank you, Audrey. It's so good to see you. I miss being there for ScubaCon, but since we're doing this, we're going to do it. I usually like to see my audience so I can ask people to raise their hands or ask questions, but I know we're going to do the Q&A at the end. I am going to share my screen. And Audrey, you're going to have to let me know. Did I get this right? Oh, Audrey, you're muted. Oh, okay, that's good. Okay, great, very good. My name is Amy Lionetti. I do the sales and marketing for the Galapagos Sky. I work in the United States. I work from home, my kitchen counter, managing the beautiful Galapagos Sky, which is obviously in the Galapagos Islands off the coast of Ecuador. I am going to do a little bit of a different presentation today, talking more early on about the destination itself and giving you some tips and some insight to Galapagos as a dive destination. And then I will talk about Galapagos Sky and our specific operation. And then I love questions and answers, and hopefully we'll have some time at the end for you to ask your questions, and I'm happy to answer them. Every diver knows that they want to get to Darwin's Arch. They've seen it in magazines, they've seen documentaries on TV, that beautiful arch, people diving up at that arch, and they know that there's some sort of mystery and everyone wants to go there. Some people call it the black belt of scuba, like making it to the Mount Everest of scuba once you've made it to that arch. And everyone knows they want to get there, but why? What is it about that arch that makes it so dynamic? So we're going to talk about that a little bit. If you could see all the way up, way up here, and I'm sorry, I don't show Colorado in this map, but this, I'm guessing, I think that's Texas, but you would, or is that Florida? Sorry, I'm not good with my geography. Up here is the United States, and straight down here, this is Ecuador. The Galapagos Islands are off the coast of Ecuador. These are the two main airports in Ecuador, Quito and Guayaquil. So we'll talk a little bit about how to get there, but basically you have to fly into one of these two airports and do an overnight, and then take a little plane. Sometimes people think that maybe you take a boat from mainland Ecuador over to the Galapagos, but there's actually two airports in the Galapagos Islands, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as well. The interesting part is, I believe that this is Denver up here. You guys are actually in the same time zone. So it's 1:06 where you are, and it's 1:06 in the Galapagos Islands right now. The Galapagos Islands being here and you guys being up there. So basically it's not quite a straight shot south, but them being in the same time zone. For you guys, the flight path from Denver seems to be, depending on what airline you're on, flying from Denver to Miami and then down to Ecuador. If you're flying on Delta to Atlanta, then down to Ecuador. United goes Denver to Houston and then down here to Ecuador, stay overnight in a hotel and then hop over to the islands. The flight from mainland Ecuador over to the Galapagos is only about an hour. Again, we talked about the flights a little bit. I think from Denver to, say, Miami is about a 4-hour flight. And then from Miami into Quito specifically, it's 4 hours and 13 minutes. So depending, I was looking at some flights this morning getting from Denver into Ecuador, and most of the flight plans get you there with one layover in about 11 hours. And you guys don't have a jet lag issue, which is nice. So now we talked about how to get there. Now I will share with you a little bit about the island specifically. San Cristobal is where Galapagos Sky comes and goes from. Some of the liveaboards in Galapagos come and go from this little area called Baltra. There's an airport here on San Cristobal. There's an airport here on Baltra. So from Quito or Guayaquil, the flights go over to either one of these locations, and then the scuba liveaboards leave from one of those two spots. In the Galapagos Islands, there are 10 boats that have a patente or a permit with the Galapagos National Park to do a scuba itinerary. The itinerary is actually dictated to us, to all operators, whichever boat it is that has a patente, what your itinerary is, where you start from and where you go. And that's all in an amazing effort to reduce the impacts of tourism. And the beauty of that, it means that when Galapagos Sky is, say, up at Darwin's Arch, we are the only boat up there. One of our competitors might be at Wolf, someone else will be down here, someone else will be over here, someone else will be there, someone else will be coming and going. So the beauty of that for divers is when you're at any one of our dive sites, you're pretty much just with the people on your boat. We might see other boats coming and going, but it makes it so that everyone's spread out enough. So it makes it just a nicer experience. Something to mention too, one of the first questions that I get asked is people know that they want to go to the Galapagos, but they've heard that there's colder water. We're going to talk about that, and I've got a couple slides coming up to explain that. But part of what makes the diving so diverse and so unique is we have different water temperatures all in this series of volcanic islands off the coast of Ecuador. Let me pop over. I have this water temperature chart, and I know, I'm not sure if Audrey can automatically send that to everyone that participates, but I can send her some PDFs that she can send to you. So don't worry, you don't have to take a screenshot, or you guys can email Audrey and get this information. But this is historic water temperature averages over the last 6 years as reported by our dive guide. So it's very, very detailed information, and I'll get into it a little bit more. Of course, divers, when I get to meet them in person, they often ask, when is the best time to go? And a lot of that depends on your tolerance for cold water or your preference for warm water. You guys have that trip in July, which is an amazing time to go because it's right on the shift as the water temperature starts to cool, but it's in prime whale shark season. We see whale sharks starting at the end of May, and we do see them into January, but we see them pretty much the end of May right into about November, December, which kind of goes along with that dip in the colder water. And I'll talk to you more about that here. How cold is cold? Wolf in Darwin, where Darwin's Arch is, all the way up in the north, is the warmest water that we see in the Galapagos Islands. So up at Wolf and Darwin, you're going to see it anywhere from 80, 78. In the cold season, August, September, a high of 76 and a low of 75. When we're up at Wolf and Darwin, we spend 3 full days up there, and we do 4 dives a day. Again, you're looking at like 7 mil, 8 mil hooded vests. And again, Audrey will be able to email you some information that we give very specific information on thermal protection and suggestions that we have. In the warmer times, March, April, May, it can be as high as 80 to 78 up here in Wolf and Darwin. Now, we spend 3 full days up there, and we come down overnight, and we spend Fridays of our itinerary on the west side of the Galapagos Islands, where we really get a sense of the diversity of what's going on here, because we have cold water that hits the west side and comes up from the deep and hits these dive sites. Cabo Douglas and Punta Vincente Roca, they've been called the icebox of Galapagos. But on one day, and specifically for Galapagos Sky, on Fridays, we do 3 dives in this area where you're going to see these colder temps. So say even in July, you're going to have an average of 66 for one day. We can, I know, I saw that look, Audrey, I saw that look. We can all do one day. You get shark skin or, whatever layering pieces, I've been to the shop there at Weaver's, get layering pieces, hoods, gloves, get some extra neoprene socks. This is where, you know, even some people do bring their dry suits. If you have a dry suit and you're comfortable in it, but if you're not, we do typically see divers diving in a 7 mil with hooded vests, layering pieces, etc. Cabo Douglas is where we see the endemic marine iguana. It's a super cool dive. We're in about 8 to 10 feet of water, and we see the marine iguanas. And Punta Vicenta Roca is where we see mola mola. So they're super cool dives. When you come up from those dives and it's chilly, we serve you hot tea, hot chocolate, hot hors d'oeuvres, put you under a hot shower, serve hot soups for lunch, try to keep your core temperature up as much as possible. But again, that really cold water is just on one day. In the middle part of Galapagos, we see kind of like an in-between. This is, we do a dive in the middle part on Sundays, Mondays, and Saturdays. So 3 days of our itinerary, you're kind of in this southern central is what I call it. And it's more in like that 70-degree, low 70s type water. So this is what gives us all the diversity. Wolf and Darwin, warmer, whale sharks, hammerheads, big stuff, big schools of tuna, down here, colder water, and in here somewhere in between. So that's a little bit just about the destination overall. Now I'll talk to you a little bit about Galapagos Sky. We are Sunday to Sunday from San Cristobal. There's a cute little airport there. Our dive guides pick you up at the airport and transfer you to the boat. That ride's only about 5 minutes. And you're met and greeted by our crew, and we give lots of safety briefings and all that good, wonderful stuff. On Sundays, we're in that southern and central, that kind of mid-temperature range. And we do a checkout dive there so everyone can kind of, you know, figure out their weight and all that good stuff. Mondays, we do a dive at Bartolome. This is known for penguins. Galapagos is the only place in the world where you can see penguins in their natural environment north of the equator. I hope I got that out right. But we have cute little Galapagos penguins, and they zoom by when you're on this dive. It's kind of a nice beginning to the trip because it's like 50 to 60 feet, just a nice drift dive, nothing crazy. And we do land tours. We get that question a lot when people are interested in going to Galapagos. They want to see the diving, but they also want to see the land. And our dive guides do an amazing job of explaining the flora and the fauna as you're doing this hike to the top of Bartolome. It's an extinct volcano. When you get to the top, you get a bird's eye view of the Galapagos, and they give you lots of really good, cool information. Monday afternoon, we do 2 dives at Cousins Rock. Again, just like a mid-temperature, a nice drift dive, 30 to 80 feet. Lots of cool stuff, lots of green sea turtles in there. Then overnight, on Monday night, we make our way up to Wolf. This is like a pretty good transition if you can remember back to the slides where I showed the map. It's about 16 hours at open sea. So we take pick up anchor while you're having dinner on Monday night. And then as you're waking up and having breakfast, we're pulling into the dive sites there. This is what I call more of the big kid diving. This is why we need to have our nitrox certification before you come to Galapagos. We're doing 4 dives a day up to 100 feet or 33 meters. The currents here can be strong. People have heard that Galapagos is advanced diving. This is where we get into more of the advanced diving because the current can be quite strong. But it's nothing that, you know, you guys can't get your training for there. And they've, you know, everyone at Weaver's is very familiar with the type of diving and how to get you ready for it. So nothing that you have to have too much anxiety about, but definitely want to make sure that you have at least 50 to 100 dives under your belt. Or talk with Weaver about some other options. You know, we have private dive guide services, etc. as well. But this is where we see the big schools of hammerheads, big schools of jacks, and we have the warmer water. Then on Wednesday, as our divers are waking up and finishing their breakfast, the boat pulls into Darwin's Arch, which again, this is kind of the mecca, you've made it as a diver when you make it to that arch. It's incredible. It's just this arch that shoots up out of the middle of the ocean. And many years ago, when they didn't really know much about the whale sharks that they saw there, they thought that the whale sharks that they saw up at the arch were sort of hanging around or aggregating, or maybe it was a spawning aggregation. Maybe there were girls and boys hanging out. Then over the years, as they've been able to tag them, what they've realized is over 95% of the whale sharks that we see around Darwin's Arch are big adult females. And right now there's kind of a debate going on about whether or not they are pregnant. It used to be believed 100% that they were all pregnant. And you can see the whale sharks have all these, they all look, if you look at a lot of whale shark pictures, you start to kind of pick out, and you can see like the ones that you see in Galapagos, they all have like a big belly. But they like to come in when the water's cold, which a lot of pregnant ladies like to, stay out of the heat too. And they like to come in when there's a lot of nutrients. You're laughing, Audrey, I know. But they like the nutrients that are in the water. So they come in, and again, they used to think that they were hanging around in the same whale sharks they were seeing over and over. But what they found when they tagged them is that those whale sharks are going by. That arch is some sort of magnet or some sort of road marker, but they're coming down up from the south and they're working their way up possibly towards Cocos. They don't know where they're getting pregnant and they don't know where they're having their babies, but they know at some point these big adult mommies are going by the arch. So it's a pretty cool thing. You definitely don't have to go to Darwin's Arch during whale shark season. There's still tons of schooling hammerheads, Galapagos sharks, big jacks, big schools of pelagics, orcas, dolphins, mantas, eagle rays, all kinds of cool stuff year round. Those are year round. Again, warmer water, bigger current, and more advanced diving, doing 4 dives a day up to 100 feet. Then on Thursday, we do a combination, couple dives at Darwin, couple dives at Wolf, all good stuff. And then Thursday night, while we're having dinner, while you're sleeping, we work our way down to that cold water. So we leave the warm water, we head down south, and we hit the west side of Galapagos, where we go into Cabo Douglas. 5 to 15 feet of water. You're in a horseshoe bay. It's very protected. It's a little surgy, and the marine iguanas, they're endemic to Galapagos. It's the only place in the world where iguanas feed underwater. They sit up on the beach and they get as warm as they can get because they're cold-blooded, and they get hungry. And when they're warm and hungry, they go into the cold water and they feed for about 45 to 50 minutes a day. Galapagos Sky is very blessed. We're very lucky that we have on our patente with the Galapagos National Park permission to dive with the marine iguanas. Not every boat has a permit to do that because they don't want too much pressure on the marine iguanas. So when Galapagos Sky is there, again, we're the only boat there. So it's just you and the other, we carry 16. So just the 16 divers and the 2 dive guides in the water. And I believe that they have it staggered every other day so that the marine iguanas don't have people kicking around too much and disrupting their environment. We also see red-lip batfish. We see Galapagos horn sharks in this site. We do see penguins, and we do see a lot of green sea turtles. It's a nice chilly dive. That's that colder water that I was talking about. So when that dive's over, we come up and we feed you lots of warm, hot chocolate and soups, etc. And oops, I am missing a slide. I'm so sorry. And then Friday afternoon, we do 2 dives at Punta Vicente Roca, where we see mola mola. For whatever reason, there's just this one drop. It's on a corner, and you just drop down to about 80 feet, and the mola mola like to hang out there. And again, the water's a little chilly. That day, because we do 3 dives versus 4 dives, we also do a panga ride around and into like a cavernous area, and the dive guides point out owls and blue-footed boobies and different birds that are all around on the rocks. These parts of the Galapagos, you're not allowed human interaction on the islands. We're not allowed to walk around on them or go hiking. So we go around in pangas and the dive guides point things out as we go. Saturday morning, we do a dive at Isla Pinzon. Those cool little Galapagos horn shark, that picture down on the bottom. We do one dive there, and that is your last full dive of the trip before we start off gassing, because a lot of people will start flying out the next day. But we do, while you're off gassing, conveniently, we make it nice and we do some more land tours. So we go on Santa Cruz to go see the Galapagos tortoises. We go to a beautiful area in their natural environment. You actually have to take off your shoes and put on special boots. So in case you have gum on your shoe or something like that, you're not bringing it into the environment. But you're able to get within 15 feet of them. That picture, she looks a little closer, but it's just like, photography magic. But we spend time there, and then we go into Port Ayora, which is a nice little town where you can go to a cafe, you can get connected a little bit back, maybe on Wi-Fi, post some stuff from your phone, etc., text home. But there's coffee shops, there's gift shops, buy some silver jewelry, buy coffee, buy t-shirts, etc. Spend some time in town, and then we do go have dinner back on board that night. Saturday night, we make the jaunt back to San Cristobal, and we go to the Interpretation Center, which is the history of Galapagos, what they're doing to get off fossil fuels, what they're doing to preserve the environment, etc. And then we transfer you back to the airport if that is the end of your journey, or some are going off on, to other hotels or spending more time in the islands. So again, now you can see, oops, let me use, we have gone all up here, up to Darwin, Wolf and Darwin, back down here to Cabo Douglas, back in here to the main part of Galapagos, and then back to San Cristobal. There's some options. Sometimes people, after the Galapagos tortoise tour, they will actually disembark on Saturday night and spend time on Santa Cruz, and then they can fly out of that airport called Baltra. There are day boats that do day tours that can go to some of these other areas around here. You can get a day boat tour here. Some of the rest of it, if you want to spend more time in Galapagos, we actually have sister yachts that do not do scuba, but they do the best of hiking and snorkeling in Galapagos. And they make a run down here to Floriana and Espanola. They also have another itinerary where they make it up to Genovesa. So if someone wanted to do a week on Galapagos Sky and a week on one of our sister yachts, they're able to do that. They do Sunday to Sunday on Galapagos Sky. And then on that Sunday, they jump on one of our sister yachts, and then they're off and running for another week in Galapagos. We talked about it a little bit when I was talking about Wolf and Darwin. Galapagos Sky, we do include nitrox. We do require it on Galapagos Sky, just because if you are diving on air up at Wolf and Darwin, doing the 4 dives a day up to 100 feet, you can only do 2 dives and not the full time allowed. So we just say, get your nitrox, have it, don't come on board and want to take the class, like get all that done, take the class at Weavers and have your certification with you. And then you can really enjoy your trip, get those 4 dives a day in. All the diving in Galapagos, and this is true of all the liveaboards there, it's done off, we call them pangas. Some destinations in the world, they call them ribs or inflatables. We call them pangas, but basically it's just a rib or an inflatable that you get off, you get geared up on the main vessel, you lower into the panga with your gear on, and then we make short trips, not long trips, they're very short, to the dive sites. You do back roll entries off the panga. At the end of the dive, you hand up your gear. We do have covers on our props, and we do have ladders to get back in the pangas. That question gets asked often because I think a long time ago, boats didn't have things like that, but we do have ladders. We get the question sometimes, what if I have a bad back and I have trouble getting from the main vessel into the panga with my gear and my weights on? We can absolutely help you 100%. If you have other issues, just talk to us about it, and we can let you know if that's something we can accommodate, or possibly with a private dive guide. But we can get very creative, and there's lots of, you know, things that we can do. But just generally, if someone needs to get their gear on in the Panga, that's not a problem. Our crew, they are the rock stars. I am just the backup singer. They make the magic. They're all Galapagos, or at least, at the very least, Ecuadorian. They're very highly knowledgeable, very professional, very experienced. Our captains are the best I've ever seen in the world. Our dive guides are dive guides for life. They are Galapagos. They're certified by the Galapagos National Park, in addition to their PADI or their SDI, SSI, whatever they got their dive guide through. They also go through retraining by the Galapagos National Park on a routine basis. So when you go to Galapagos, it's their home. They're very passionate about the Galapagos Islands. They're very welcoming. They're very hospitable. They want to share everything that they know about the islands with you. They're very hardworking, very warm, caring people. I love them dearly. Our typical dive guide ratio is 8-to-1. So we have 2 Pangas, 8 in one Panga, 8 in another, a dive guide in each one. We do offer private dive guide services. Sometimes people just like that extra service. Sometimes they need it if they're newer divers and they just want to go to Galapagos. It is $1,750 for the week for a group of up to 4. So just something, you know, if you're booking your trip, just and that's something you're interested in, let Weavers know, and they arrange that with us. Sorry, I didn't even mean to have this, but these are some of our dive guides. The gentleman in the right holding the weight belt, he's actually 2nd generation dive guide on Galapagos Sky. Amazing people. They are truly like family. Things to know about diving in Galapagos: you want to bring gloves. I know some destinations and some parks, they don't allow gloves. In Galapagos, you absolutely want them for the thermal protection and to protect your hands. Sometimes we do hold on to volcanic rock. We never hold on to corals or anything in a fragile environment. Sometimes we do have to hold on to rocks because the currents are quite strong. Something that's interesting that people aren't always aware of is the US dollar is the form of currency in Ecuador. So for those of us coming from the United States, it's very easy. You don't have to exchange money. And when you go to the ATMs in Ecuador, you get out US dollars. There's no issue with that. There's ATMs in the airports and in the main areas of Galapagos. Communication. We get asked this question a lot. Cell phones will not work most of the cruise. Only when we're near Santa Cruz, San Cristobal will they work. And even at that, reception is not what we're used to, say, in Miami or maybe Denver or Boulder. We do not have Wi-Fi available on board. You can buy minutes on our satellite phone and call out. So we do have a sat phone on board. If someone needs to reach the boat, they can email us at the office, call us, and we can always get a message out to the captain. I'm able to WhatsApp the captain 24/7, so we can always get messages through, but again, no Wi-Fi on board. Things to consider when going to Galapagos is you're going to need a hotel in either Quito or Guayaquil, pre and post cruise. Sometimes you can get away with skipping that post cruise and get some late night flights out. That air travel between Ecuador, mainland Ecuador, and the islands, it's running about $500 these days, in that range. The Galapagos National Park has a fee, it's $100. There's a transit card tax that's $20. And there's a chamber in the Galapagos Islands on Santa Cruz. And every big operator, the big liveaboards, we all collect $35 from every diver to keep the lights on, to keep a doctor there. And when it's very rare that anyone gets bent in Galapagos, thank goodness, but they do a lot for the community with helping people in the local community, while obviously they're not treating divers very often, which is great. A couple extra fees now for anyone who wants to travel soon. The Galapagos Islands are open for tourism. Yay! I know, we're so excited. We had been in the port since March. We are able to operate now, and our sister yachts have had their first successful cruise, thank goodness. For people from the United States, it's a fairly easy process. You have to be tested for corona in your local area within 10 days of arriving into mainland Ecuador. When you land, you have to show the proof of that negative test, and then they test you again. So you're tested again when you land, and that process has gotten a little bit easier now. So we're telling folks, if you have a Sunday departure on Sky, to arrive into mainland Ecuador by Friday night, and that will make sure that you have enough time to get tested, get that result, and then once you have that second negative result, you're able to fly over to the islands. We do have some departures going in October and November and December, and people are booking. Divers want to go diving. So that's all really good news. And Weavers can help any of you guys with that. And again, I know they've got space on their trip in July. How testing will look in July, of course, we don't know. But for now, for folks that want to go diving this year, you are able to get there. And our guides say to me that it's almost like being in Galapagos 20 years ago, because there's so few tourists there. The marine life is as abundant as ever, and the diving is amazing. So if anyone wants to go diving, let us know. A little bit just about our service and our food, our booth style seating. We do accommodate vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, dairy-free, you name it, we can accommodate it. We are working consistently to source more our foods in Galapagos and source more organic foods. But again, please let us know your food preferences in advance, and we're happy to accommodate all that. Beer, wine, and open bar is included on Galapagos Sky. We do have premium beers and wines and liquors available for purchase. Of course, soda, coffee, tea, etc. Juices, those are always included. And we do have water coolers around and give you a reusable water bottle, and you're welcome to bring your own as well. But open bar is included on Sky. We have 4 master cabins upstairs. Those can have 1 king bed or 2 twin beds. We do evening turn down service and put chocolates on your pillows. We do have hair dryers in the bathrooms. We have safes, etc. The rooms are quite nice. We do have a lovely lounge area. So I'm just looking at the time. We have flat screen TVs, lots of books about Galapagos, fish ID, etc. Our beautiful dive deck. Again, Nitrox is included. We have Scuba Pro rental gear on board. Sustainability and conservation. I'm very, very proud to say that the owner of Galapagos Sky is 2nd generation. They own 4 boats in Galapagos. Galapagos Sky is 1, and 3 others that do hiking and snorkeling. The owner of Galapagos Sky is on the National Council of the World Wildlife Fund. We were the first to get the Smart Voyager status. In Galapagos, we are considered the only carbon neutral company in Ecuador. We donate a week's proceeds to the Charles Darwin Foundation. So a lot goes on behind the scenes that people aren't always aware of for sustainability and conservation. I'm very proud of all that. And that is Galapagos Sky. I went a little over on time. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Thank you so much, Amy. You were so thorough.
Oh, good.
I learned, I haven't been to the Galapagos yet, even though I really want to go, and I learned a ton. And we have a few questions on things that you didn't cover.
Okay, great.
So we had one question about how big are the airplanes from mainland to the Galapagos? Are those the tiny little prop planes?
No, they're good sized planes. Off the top of my head, I can't, like business class carries 12. They're good sized planes. It used to be that there were 3 airlines that operated going from mainland over to the islands. So, like 2 flights a day. So there were like 6 flights a day going over and going back. It is severely reduced right now. But of course, that'll be rebuilding. Right now, Avianca, which is the airline that we work with, is operating on Sundays, 1 flight over and 1 flight back. So it's a little tricky right now, but the flights are they're full-size planes. They're not just little hoppers.
Cool. And then a lot of our divers obviously have been diving in Cozumel, where there's drift diving as well. How would you compare the drifts down at Wolf and Darwin compared to Cozumel?
That's very good experience. When people say to me they've been to Cozumel, that's a good thing. That is a good experience on your way to Galapagos. So if they've got the minimum amount of dives and they've done that kind of get dropped off, get picked up diving, maybe sent off a surface marker, but they know, you just go with the drift. You're not having to navigate back or fighting the current to go back, that kind of thing. That's good experience.
Cool. Well, that's really good to know, because I know a lot of people get nervous about that.
Yes.
I know there's like different temperatures and stuff. So does visibility differ between different sites, and is there seasons for better viz and worse viz?
Yes. So if people want warmer, calmer, clearer water, then you're looking at more of that March, April, May. Let me see if I can. If they want the warmer, calmer, clearer, that's going to be all in here. What happens when the water gets colder is there's more nutrients in the water as well. I don't know why that's leaving that little mark. So the visibility, it's not dirty water, it's more grainy. So if people want like that blue shot of the schooling hammerheads, I tell them that you want to do more of this. And if they want to jump into whale shark season, I just say that May, June, go on the cusp of it. So it just depends. I talk to divers, I try to feel them out for their experience, where they've done their diving, etc. And then we try to figure out where they want to go. But the water can be calmer and clearer in the February, March, April, May. Not that it's bad in the other months. It's just more nutrients.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, Amy, we still have some questions. A lot of people have been asking about the minimum age for divers, because we know you have to be experienced. Nitrox certified is definitely really recommended. Advanced open water as well. 50 dives. Minimum age 15 or?
Correct. Yeah. Well, we want the 15 for us for Galapagos Sky is because of the depth restrictions. Yep. And up at Wolf and Darwin, you can't really hover. There's some destinations in the world where, you could have the divers, the main group at like 80 to 100, and maybe with a younger kid, you could hover at 60. What happens in Galapagos is you're going to have different currents, and the person at 60 would definitely have to be with a private dive guide, and their dives would be very short. We've definitely accommodated because there are some very serious dive families. We've also had full charters that are directed more at having kids on board. So if we have a full charter where it's aimed at having kids on board, we dial it down, change things around a little bit. But if you just want to bring like an 11-year-old on a regular trip, especially say like August or September, you have to be a serious dive family, and we would really have to talk about it, and they would have to have a private dive guide. Yeah, so 15 is really like a better age. Go get some experience in some other locations, and then come when they're able to go down the depths.
That makes sense, totally. Well, thank you so much, Amy. I think everyone learned a lot, and if you don't want to go to the Galapagos, you're crazy, because I want to go.
I know. I can't wait to see you get there.
I know. One day it'll happen.